How do they do it? Why do they do it? Riding and crashing and riding and winning and always faster and faster.
Well, welcome back everybody to With Antone MotoGP 2025. And this week the championship is heading off to Indonesia, the Mandalika circuit for round 18 of the championship. And after Motegi, wow, we've got plenty of storylines this week to talk about. And this Grand Prix is really all about last weekend and the psychological effects that have come from that Motegi race. Pecco, is he back on top, or was it a one-off? You know, the stop-go nature of that circuit with the changes really suited him. We'll see how he goes. And Marc Márquez, he celebrated his 9th World Motorcycle Championship. But now, can he quickly refocus and gain his composure after such an emotional event? And what about Alex Marquez? Can he get back to how he was in the beginning of the season? And Aprilia, they're battling their injuries, they're battling the team harmony. And of course, Honda is really starting to show some signs of putting their bike on the podium. Was that a one-off? Anyway, so let's take a look at this weekend and see what's happening. Straight off the bat, I want to talk about Liberty Media. Now, there's a story running around that Liberty Media are going to ask Marc Márquez, instruct him even maybe, to use the #1 plate next year. Now, everybody knows Marc Márquez, 93. They're trying to take away his brand. I just don't really see it happening. We've seen it in Formula One. Max Verstappen famously changed from his number 33 to #1. But of course, Hamilton never changed from his 44. So watch this story. This is a big one. And I really want to see what can happen. The other thing Marc is looking to do is, can he break his record from 2014? He won 13 Grand Prix that year. He currently sits on 11 at the moment. And of course, 14 sprints. But you know, back in the day, they didn't even used to continue to race after they won the championship. 1973, we're going back, a guy called Barry Sheen on a TR750 on a Colin Searle frame, Suzuki. He missed the last 3 rounds of the championships. He preferred to go on holidays. And of course, there was also the element of costs that was also back out there. And what about Pecco Bagnaia, Mr. Go Free? Well, can he continue on from the form that he showed in Motegi? You know, the psychological effect. His confidence is going to be high, but he's got a couple of things going against him this weekend. One is the Michelin tyres. Michelin use a special hard carcass tyre. They call it a heat-resistant tyre because of the abrasive and heat that comes from the Mandalika circuit. And of course, he won't be running the 355mm brakes. So his challenge is to continue on with the form he's got. Can he move forward? Can he actually get to second in the championship? He currently sits 66 points behind Alex Marquez. So that's something we're going to be watching. Speaking of watching and speaking of things that aren't going so well, Aprilia Racing. Well, we saw Motegi, we saw what Jorge Martin did with that crazy move up the inside. He went through and knocked out Bezzecchi. Well, he's had his successful surgery on his collarbone. Now he's going to be out. They haven't actually officially announced, but at least not racing this weekend. Maybe we see him back in Phillip Island, or maybe we see him in Malaysia. I think also, talking about psychological effects, this is really starting to play with Jorge Martin's mind. Bez re-injured his knee and he's not 100%. So I'm really not too sure how the relationships are going in that box. And I'm not sure whether that Aprilia model making him stay is something that's going to work in the long run. Look, the only thing we can look at, Jorge Martin admitted himself, that guitar crash was almost self-inflicted. He'd run out of energy. So let's see how Aprilia go. Look, the good news was that Maverick Vinales actually ran and put the Aprilia into second place in 23. So maybe there's something there that they can work on. The other one that we're going to need to follow closely this weekend at Mandalika is HRC and Honda and their resurgence. Now, what was that race we saw in Motegi? You know, we saw Mir on the podium, How kind of weird was that? It's great signs, the new chassis, the new swing arm are working, but you know, that home race in front of the HRC bosses, as we know Honda owns Motegi, maybe it was a one-off, but those new parts seem to be actually making a difference, and they're showing good top speed, but again, they've got to build on that. Zarco ran around and finished in 9th in 2024, but I'm really not sure about Mir, whether it was a one-off, but I do see Honda moving in the right direction in terms of their development. The other one this weekend is tyres and the track. Now, the Mandalika circuit is known to be very abrasive. You know, 2 years ago, they had the problem with the surface breaking up. It's going to be around 34 degrees Celsius and probably some storms in the afternoon. I think Saturday, Sunday and Friday for qualifying, there'll be some wet weather around, but it does dry quickly. But again, those Michelin special tyres, it's going to be a battle of who can manage the rear grip the best and who can actually move forward to make that work. Maybe we can look at some surprises and what might happen this weekend. KTM, I think Acosta, who finished second in 24, is a big chance this weekend. And I think he's a big chance, and I think he's probably going to go on and even maybe win the Grand Prix, which would be his first Grand Prix, which would be amazing. Quartararo continuing his, we've got to do more, we've got to get faster. Look, Fabio, there's plenty of V4 engine bikes that are way ahead of Yamaha. If you want that, then sign for one in 27. You know, I don't know what he's going to do this weekend, but this continual complaining, for me, it's not good for him. It's not good for Yamaha, and I think the V4's got some potential. But speaking of potential, it's time for the satellite teams to get a bit of a hustle on for this season. Tech 3, pramacracing, Trackhouse. I mean, is pramacracing starting to regret moving to Yamaha? I mean, what's going on? They haven't had any great results. And the final little bit of news is that I understand that Rossi VR46, Pertima Enduro, their sponsor, they're going to be running a red and white livery this week on the bikes, so look out for that. It's going to look a bit different. Okay, with Antone MotoGP predictions for this weekend. Yep, I'm going for Pedroacosta to win his first Grand Prix. I think Marc will get it together and run around and finish in second. But there'll be a real battle for that final podium position. Morbidelli, of course, with the sponsors and the change, big focus for VR46. Bezzecchi, if he's actually not too injured, maybe, just maybe Pecco can do something. But that's my prediction for this weekend with the mixed conditions. Okay, so it's all set up for this weekend in Indonesia. Pecco's got some momentum. Márquez is riding free now. He can do anything he wants. You talk about Mr. Go Free. Márquez has climbed that mountain and he's good to go. Honda are on the rise, and maybe those smooth, open corners will work for Fabio to actually put it up higher on the grid. Throw in the heat, throw in the tyres, throw in the tropical rain, and we should have a bit of a wild race weekend, this one. But I don't know who your pick is to shine in Mandalika. If you've got a thought about who do you think is going to go, is it a one-off for Pecco? How's Marc going to do? Then let me know in the comments below. And don't forget, if you've enjoyed today, please like and share the video. And if you want to subscribe to keep the journey going with Antone MotoGP, then why don't you chuck us out a subscription? All right then, I appreciate your watching today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Okay, bye for now.